Welcome to Martial Mastery Media. In today's episode, we're journeying into the world of Viking martial arts, exploring the fighting techniques and tactics that helped the Norse warriors conquer vast lands and seas. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you enjoy this video, please share it with your friends and family. Let's grow our community together. The Viking era and warrior ethos. The Viking Age spanned from roughly 793 AD to 1066 AD, when Scandinavian warriors, sailors, and traders embarked on expeditions across Europe. Their reputation as fierce fighters was not only built on their ability to raid coastal villages but also on their sophisticated combat strategies and martial skills. Viking martial arts were not a singular, codified system like some Eastern martial arts, but rather a collection of techniques and practices passed down through generations, honed by constant warfare and survival. The Vikings lived by a warrior ethos that placed high value on honor, strength, and courage. Dying in battle was considered the ultimate achievement, as it granted them access to Valhalla, a warrior's paradise in Norse mythology where they would fight and feast for eternity. This belief imbued Viking warriors with fearlessness on the battlefield, often driving them to fight until the last breath. Weapons of the Vikings. Central to Viking martial arts were the weapons they wielded, and each weapon demanded its own specific techniques. Let's break down the key tools of Viking warfare. Swords. Viking swords were shorter than many medieval European blades, typically around 90 centimeters, 35 inches, in length. These double-edged swords were primarily used for slashing, with the ability to deliver fast, sharp strikes. Despite the Viking association with axes, swords were highly valued and often passed down through families as heirlooms. Vikings were taught to maneuver quickly, using a combination of their sword and shield to deflect and counter-strike. Axes. Perhaps the most iconic Viking weapon, the axe was versatile and deadly. Vikings used both one-handed and two-handed axes, with the latter often reaching over 1 meter in length. The bearded axe, which had a hooked blade, allowed for hooking and pulling away enemy shields, while the larger Dane axe could cleave through armor and limbs. Viking martial arts with axes involved heavy, precise swings aimed at incapacitating or killing an opponent with a single blow. Spears. Surprisingly, spears were more commonly used than swords in Viking combat. Spears could be thrown at enemies from a distance or wielded in close combat. The Vikings employed various spear fighting techniques, including thrusting and sweeping attacks. The spear was a symbol of Odin, the chief god in Norse mythology, and its use was both practical and symbolic in Viking culture. Shields. Viking shields were round, typically about 80 to 90 centimeters, 31 to 35 inches, in diameter, and made of wood. They were essential both offensively and defensively. Vikings would use the shield not just to block attacks but also to bash enemies, knock them off balance, and even hide weapons behind it. One of the most famous Viking tactics was the shield wall, skjoldborg, where warriors would interlock their shields to form a barrier, moving as a unit and using their spears and swords to strike through gaps. Glima. Viking wrestling and hand-to-hand combat. In addition to weapons-based combat, the Vikings also practiced grappling and wrestling, known as Glima. Unlike the brutal and deadly nature of their armed combat, Glima had a more sport-like quality, although it could certainly be adapted for battlefield use. Glima is one of the oldest known martial traditions in Scandinavia and focused on throws, holds, and balance-breaking techniques. In Viking society, Glima was used both as a way to prepare warriors for close combat and as a means of settling disputes without the need for bloodshed. It was practiced in several forms, including Lorzatok Glima, free wrestling, which resembled modern grappling sports. In battle, however, these techniques could be used to disarm an enemy, throw them off balance, or even choke or incapacitate them in close quarters. Naval combat and sea raids. The Vikings were master seafarers, and their ability to fight on both land and sea set them apart from many of their adversaries. Viking longships allowed for swift raids along the coastlines of Europe, often taking their enemies by surprise. This combination of shipbuilding skill and martial prowess made them highly effective at ambush tactics and fast-paced coastal assaults. On their longships, Vikings employed unique naval combat techniques. They would use archers and spearmen to engage enemy ships at a distance and then board them for close-quarters combat with axes, swords, and shields. Viking martial arts in naval settings required agility, balance, and coordination, as they had to fight on the unstable decks of ships while maintaining control of their weapons. Viking Berserkers, the ultimate warriors. No discussion of Viking martial arts is complete without mentioning the legendary Berserkers. These elite Viking warriors fought in a trance-like state of rage, believed to be possessed by the spirit of animals, especially bears and wolves. Berserkers were infamous for their unmatched ferocity, seemingly impervious to pain and fatigue in battle. According to historical accounts, they would enter a frenzied state where they fought with superhuman strength, often without wearing armor, relying on sheer force and speed to overwhelm their enemies. The Berserkers' fighting style, though less structured than regular Viking warriors, was devastating. Their reckless abandon and raw power made them a feared force on the battlefield, embodying the terrifying intensity of Viking martial culture. Conclusion: Viking martial arts were a dynamic blend of weapon mastery, hand-to-hand combat, and tactical warfare. These Norse warriors used their environment, mythology, and unrelenting spirit to become one of the most formidable fighting forces in history. From the disciplined techniques of the shield wall to the berserk fury of the Berserkers, Viking combat has left an indelible mark on the history of warfare. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Viking martial arts, don't forget to subscribe to Martial Mastery Media and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. And as always, share this video with your friends and family to spread the love of martial arts history. Thank you for watching.